First of all, I'm going to introduce the panel, but I'm going to preface my remarks by saying I spent a significant portion of my career as an economic geologist in Peru. I know the company well, or the country well, I should say, but I actually don't know the three areas that these gentlemen are working in currently. So without further ado, to my right is Graham Carham, CEO of Tinka Resources, and Graham's a geologist. In the middle is Michael Hudson, also a geologist, CEO of Hannan Metals. And to my far right is Andrew Thomson, who is CEO of Palamina Corp. I am a shareholder of all three of these companies, and I have to tell you, I am underwater as a shareholder on all three at the present time. That's not surprising with the 6-year bear market, perhaps longer, that we've had with the Toronto Venture Exchange. So I'm going to ask these guys to start out by give us a synopsis in 1 to 2 minutes of their company. And at some point, I want them to convince me that I need to continue to hold their shares because there are better days coming. So we'll start with Graham Carham.
Tinka is listed on the Vancouver Exchange, market cap of 70 million Canadian dollars. We have a large zinc project in Peru, 7 billion pounds of indicated and inferred resources, still open in lots of directions. In the last 2 weeks, we announced a strategic placement with Buenaventura, which is Peru's largest mining company, to invest $16 million Canadian for a 19.9% stake in the company. So we're well cashed up. We've got around $24 million in cash currently. We're fully drill permitted, ready to start our 2020 drill program, which will be to continue to expand our resources and de-risk the project. It's a zinc project. It's a carbonate replacement style deposit, of which there are many different examples of those deposits in Peru. It's one of the largest undeveloped zinc projects in the world, and it's a great project. So to get the Buenaventura guys on board, obviously very, very pleasing.
Back. So Michael Hudson, I'm a geologist. Like Graham, at least over here, I've had 25 years experience. Graham's been in Peru a little bit longer. I went to Peru in the mid-90s and was working for the largest zinc company at the time. Graham was my boss, so we've got a very long history. I ended up with my business partner purchasing the data of that large company, vended Tinka the asset a long time ago, and I left Peru and been there on and off over the last 15 years, and we've recently made a re-entry to what we think is now what is a very new big copper discovery on the eastern side of the Andes. It's an area that's been worked by petroleum guys for many years, hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, one of the most studied petroleum basins in the world, that literally has had about 1 year's work that we put in over the last year. We've staked something like 52,000 hectares. We've got very high grades of copper over hundreds of kilometres, and literally I mean that. It's a very big new system. A very early stage, very different to what Graham was describing in Tinka. This is a $12 million market cap company. It's just starting to get understood, and the liquidity and the story is getting out there. We just bought Quinton Henny, who's very well known in the sector, is one of the very biggest big picture ore finders in the space. He's just been appointed to the advisory board. So a very long history. In terms of cash in the company, and in terms of cash in the company, we've got we'll have $2.5 million in a few weeks. We're just closing a financing. We've got 59 million shares outstanding today. That will go up to about 72 when we close that financing. So what really drives this industry, the engine driver, is discovery. It's what's created Tinka, and Graham will make that bigger. And this is one of those earlier stage projects that we're looking to make into a new discovery. But it is a new copper basin, and it's got a lot of eyes. There's a staking rush there now.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Thomson. I'm an entrepreneur. I sold my last company to Agnico, and they spun us out of Palamina. Most of my efforts were in Mexico. I've moved now to Peru. Peru is, what attracted me to Peru were two things. There's a modern day gold rush going on in southeastern Peru. And there was a lot of ground that was coming available that I thought was very prospective. So we spent $500,000 staking in January 2017, acquired some very significant positions. They've never been drilled, no systematic exploration, but all new roads. And there's 700 square kilometers of alluvials and 100 idios that are being mined today. This is the largest informal area in the world that's being mined. And then at the top of this orogenic system of the Puno Belt, there's at 5,300 meters, there's 35,000 miners mining into a glacier. So there is no doubt that this had the potential to be able to find 3 to 5 million ounce deposits, which is our focus. We currently have about 36 million shares out. I myself maintain a 10% position. I put over 1.1 million into the company. I feel very strongly that this is. A lot of people say there hasn't been a lot of, all the surface showings have disappeared. We're finding that's not the case. We really have, we spent $2 million on our main project. The stock price is about 25 cents. There's 750,000 in cash and marketable securities. We sold one of our projects to a company called Helio. We've just rebranded it Windshear with the symbol WINS, WINS. That company took on our Gaban project. So if you invest in us, you will get, we're going to drill our main project. We've got 25% of that company and a royalty. They also make us advance royalty payments, and we share a team. So I like to put money in the ground, and I like to make certain that we have a good odds at discovery. So I think as this belt comes forward, it will be more prolific. Karani and Oyachea should be noted that I picked up the Minera IRL exploration team. They have 15 years experience in the belt, and it's allowed me within 2.5 years to put together a world-class portfolio of gold projects.
Okay, we're going to move on here. I'm going to give each CEO about a minute to talk about something that concerns me, and that's geopolitical risk in Peru, and specific to the questions, any environmental, social, cultural, political concerns that they have and how they mitigate those. So we're going to kind of rotate, and we'll start with Mike Hudson and then go to Andrew and come back to Graham here.
Peru is Peru. It's one of the largest mining countries in the world, a top miner in many of the metals. So it isn't always as clear or as transparent as one would like it, but there's been many mines opened, and there will be many more mines opened. So from a geopolitical risk, I mean, we can talk about the Congress and the elections that are coming up, but I don't think that's going to change our business in any way, shape or form. It's really down at the more granular level, at the local level. Now, when I was back in Peru in the 1990s, there wasn't a Ministry of Culture, there wasn't a Ministry of Environment, and now they're very important in everything we do. And as I said just earlier, when Mickey came by our booth with his group, it doesn't matter about us geologists and creators, it's really more around the social licensing, because whatever we find, it doesn't matter as long as we can get, if we can't get access. And there's been a lot of disenfranchisement of people in Peru, especially over the years, and now they have a lot of power to allow projects to advance or not. So we've got more sociologists on the ground than we do geologists at the moment, and remember, this is a very new discovery. It's over hundreds of kilometres, so we just got to literally know where every landholder is, what their opinions are, who we are, what we're doing, and that's very much at the granular level. Graham will have a very different story, because he's at a much more advanced level and knows exactly where his deposit is. So there's different courses for different horses for different courses. So in summary, there's a number of different permitting levels. So if a more advanced project is talking about permitting, it's completely different to earlier stage projects that we're dealing with, and there's different requirements, and we're not going to go into those details. But suffice to say that small companies with small budgets will not survive, I don't think, going forward in this new reality of where social licensing, you need time and money. I mean, single rig drill programs for large companies in Peru take up to 5 social people and millions of dollars, whereas mines, the equivalent company with this same mines just down the road, have 2 full-time people. So exploration actually needs a lot more around the social licensing than a mine almost in terms of actual dollars. So
And
it's just
Mike, I'm gonna cut you off and pass the mic over to Andrew there.
So most of my career in mining has been in Latin America. Mexico was my favorite for the longest time, and not unlike Mexico, around 1992-93, Peru opened its doors and became much more entrepreneurial, allowing 100% foreign ownership. Since that time, I think in the next year there's about 64 billion in development expense, and because of where it's located, and it's we sort of had this thing where it's the further south you go, the more socialist it gets. Well, of all, really, in my opinion, from an investment point of view, because I've had companies in Panama and Honduras, it has a big mining tradition, and I think that Vizquera, the new president, who is the Canadian ambassador, is good friends with the Benavides family. He runs the Canadian Chamber, so we're actually in a period where, from a macro point of view of investment, it's actually it's better than Chile for the moment. Mexico's nationalizing, so I chose to go to Peru because you can hold large land positions. It's $3 a hectare. There's no work commitment versus all these other countries are going the other direction. And in terms of the social license, etc., I've always found that there's been a lot of over-promising, and we're in one of the most difficult areas where they speak Quechua and Amari, but it's really the team that we've put together that have experience in the belt. And so, as I like to say, if you live by the promises you make, it's really not that different. I will say that from a permitting point of view, what's holding Peru back is they've put so many laws and restrictions in place that in terms of where your exploration dollar goes in the ground, it's not as good an investment. So that from that perspective, if you look at some of the Peruvians that have come to Canada, that have experience, they're not in Peru because of the time frame it takes to move things forward. So that would be my only complaint. But in terms of Latin America, they've gone from 14th to 10th in the world. So they're actually a very good jurisdiction. And again, with $56 billion going in versus, say, Ecuador, where they really don't have a mining tradition and no development as an exploration. So when I'm looking to sell out, I'd like the major to be down the road.
Graham?
Yeah, I'll just add a few comments. Peru is certainly one of the best countries in Latin America. A lot of the neighbouring countries are struggling for various reasons. There's no major concerns, I don't think, in terms of the geopolitical side. As Mike says, it's more on the local scene. Luckily for Tinka, we're in central Peru. Central Peru is a mining part of the world. The communities and local governments understand mining. It's been part of the culture there for hundreds of years. So we really don't have any significant concerns. The community side, there is a cost, but our project, we've been working it now for 15 years, and we've had long-term ongoing relationships with the local community. So yes, there's a cost, but there's really nothing holding us back.
Yeah, so I want to get into this a little bit more, and that's the length of time it takes to get drill permits. Is there reason to think that it will become more efficient, or are we still looking at long delays for permitting pads, specifically in areas, not specifically perhaps your project, which is in a very known mining area, but some of the more hinterlands, if you will. Anybody want to weigh in on that? I mean, I'm hoping that something improves there.
So Peru recently announced that they're digitizing the process. So in the interim, it's been a little bit difficult because you're dealing with paper. When they get the system, it's up and running. So now as you move forward through the different steps, it's now online versus the paper trail. I still feel for explorationists, at least, it's you have to put a lot of things in place. The majors love it because you've done everything from the beginning, and it's great. But I still feel, so from the digitization point of view, it should move faster. But quite frankly, I think they need to. Like a lot of countries, the mining departments are quite small, and everybody's waiting for the boom to come before they hire more people. So if anything, they need more bodies. But the structure, in terms of, title is 100% title. There's no issues. It's actually very well structured. It just was designed for a much more buoyant market. So they don't have enough people, and it takes too much time. But the changes they're making are moving it toward in the right directions. And again, B.Sc is pro-mining. Peru effectively has agriculture and mining, and so if they want to move forward, they have to move things forward. There is a FTA, which is the new FTA, a new permit that's about 3 months. I will caution everybody to say that it takes sometimes 4 months to put the data together. So that's the issue, really, at the end of the day.
Well, we had our permit, our EIA permit, granted in 9 months, so it can be done, and that was within their anticipated timetable. We got that granted in November of last year. We can now drill from 230 platforms. So we've actually never been held up by permitting. We've always had permitting done within our time frame. So,
Hey, Michael, why don't you give us some perspective in on the other side of the mountains of Peru?
Yeah, so I think it's important that what Andrew said, there is transparency there now in the system, so you can follow your permit through the online system and see where it's at and literally where it's sitting. So that's a very positive move. It is understaffed, and that's very true also. Mickey was hinting about what it is on the other side of the Andes. I talked about this as a new big discovery over 100 kilometres. We found a new basin. And it's been in an area where the petroleum guys have been working for a long time, but nobody's been there in the mining business, which is an advantage and disadvantage because there's been a lot of disenfranchisement of the local people around Yanacocha, for example, and in that northern part of Peru, it's almost impossible to do things. So it's case by case where you're working, and Graham and Andrew have talked about their experiences. So it's very much an area by area specific, but we're going in with that large many sociologists, because we've got to educate the people and tell them what we're doing, and then do it, and then tell them again. And it's actually in legislation that you've got to keep people informed on a regular basis, which means local people on the ground always informing people. Just one thing I wanted to say, Andrew mentioned the FTA, which is 20 platforms. Graham mentioned the EIA, which is 200 plus, something like. So, and then there's a middle one called the DIA, so they're all different time frames. So yeah, that's taking a long time. It's not going to get much better, I don't think, unless there's a lot more people employed. The timeframes are around the local level and whether you get local acceptance. Timeframes around archaeological surveys. Timeframes around water authorities. So there's lots of granularity here that needs to be dealt with. But if you don't get it right from the start, you're stuffed.
Graham, your stock's trading at 20 cents. Michael, yours is 22 cents today. Andrew's is 25 cents. So what's the upside in the next year for a shareholder like me who is a little bit underwater, but not a whole lot? What should I do?
We're one of the few pure gold exploration companies in a prolific orogenic belt. We got our DIA permitting for 40 drill pads on December 24th. We've been trading sideways, 2 drill holes. Come to booth 411 and I'll give you the story. We really are swinging for the fences, and have a really dynamic group of directors and management team that have done it before.
This is a new story. I've mentioned that 3 times, I think, already. The share price has tripled over the last month or so. It's got a lot more recognition in the space. There's others who've come in and staked large positions around us. We've had the first mover advantage. We've got all the known copper showings, and we're miles ahead in terms of geological understanding of the system. So certainly we're back on the ground. We'll be finding a lot more. We'll be defining things, and then moving to a very early stage drill program after that. But what's a new basin, copper basin, worth really? And that will depend on the success. So That's what's got people excited.
And in Tinka's case, the fact that we've got a new strategic investor, Buenaventura, has given us a big stamp of approval on the project and on the company, on the management team. That should give people confidence that we're on the right track. We believe we've got a mine. It's just a matter of time. And the fact that Peru's largest mining companies bought a stake in the company, we think is a significant step forward.
All right. Let's have a round of applause for our panel here. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and go Peru.